As you become more powerful and a stronger person, people are going to come around you. Your family members are going to want to know, hey, how come you're living a little bit of a different lifestyle? Or how come you've changed? Or how come you're looking smarter and your clothes look better and you're more groomed and it seems like you have more money and more travel and more fluidity? And they are going to come to you. When they come to you, you can act as a teacher. You can inspire. You can show them the positivity and the strength that is there in life. However, what happens to some people is they gain a modicum of power and then they want to go out and change the world. When you want to go out and change the world, what you're saying is the world isn't okay. And you have to accept it as beautiful. You have to accept that it is divinely perfect. Even though to our finite minds, as we are in this energy pattern, battling through the inconsistencies, sometimes it seems to us like it's not okay. Hey, wait a minute, I feel pain, I feel discomfort, I feel frustration. Where's the employment? Where's the money? Where's the world peace? But in fact, when you look at it as an overview, if you could leave the planet and go up about 200 or 300 miles and look back at it, you can see that there is a gradual sense of improvement. You can look back to the 60s and see that, for example, the energy today in the 80s and as we move on into the 90s is much more powerful than it was in the 60s. And the 60s were more powerful than the 40s. And the 40s was a whole different era than the turn of the century. And so you can see that man is coming very, very quickly. I mean, almost like a train through the night in his evolution, but it will take time. And as you develop this power, your main function is to express it with this unconditional love to people, not imposing your opinion upon people, but just waiting for them to come along and ask you. If a person comes and asks you for information or for advice, give it to them as fairly and as equitably as you can. But don't go out and seek people to fix. Don't go out into the society and say, I gotta fix this. This is terrible. I gotta fix it. You don't have to fix it. It is what it is, and it's coming up as time goes on. The first thing that you probably would have noticed from listening to miracles is that there is an utter simplicity to it. The process isn't complicated. As human beings, we tend to think that things have to be difficult, that things have to have a modicum of struggle, that getting money has to take effort, that being in love has to mean that somehow we lose a part of ourselves or whatever it may be. In fact, when you look at nature and you look at life and you look at energy in motion, it is utter simplicity. Think of the clarity and the simplicity of a lightning bolt. It isn't complicated. It's just this pure flash of light. And in the same way, as you begin to create miracles in your life, be careful that you don't complicate the issue. Isn't it true that sometimes we'll head off on a project and we'll make it immensely difficult and immensely complicated when all we had to do actually was walk across the street? When you relax and you allow that freshness and that simplicity and that humbleness to come into your life, things appear automatically. Where it says in the Bible, the meek shall inherit the earth, meek did not mean wimpy or weak or people that you could punch up. It's basically a sense of simplicity, of naturalness, of an alignment to nature, an understanding that everything is perfect and that everything will flow to you. And as you come out of the intellect and more into this magnanimous feeling of limitless inside of you, the simplicity begins to develop and everything has a natural beauty.
You can't want something that you don't have and be a vibrational match to it. You have to be what you want, and then you can have it. In other words, you have to feel prosperity equivalent to your request. So, first of all, jackpot. What an interesting word. It implies big, 93 million is. It implies rare. It implies unlikely. Doesn't usually feel like the next logical step. The bigness of it gives you away. In other words, if you said, universe, I could sure use more money, there's very little discord in that vibration. And if you offered that sentiment often until you came to expect it, so that your words naturally morphed to, universe, I certainly could use more money. I certainly expect more money to flow to me. In that soft, non-resistant expectation, more money would begin flowing to you. But when you say, universe, I know that there's this incredibly large, understood by almost no one, pile of money sitting over there, and I would like it to come into my pile. The vibrational discord is so huge that you can tell by the way you feel when you talk about it, that while you might occasionally come into the arena of hopefulness, that mostly you don't expect that even as you offer the words. And we've never known anyone who could hype their words up enough to make that vibrational jump. Universe, you could make it up to me. You could give me this jackpot and you could make it all right. And we say it doesn't work that way. You've got to be chronically over here in the vibration of well-being, and when you are, the universe will say, well, here's a way, well, here's a way, well, here's a way, well, here's a way. When you're in the vortex, this I did, this I did, this I did, this I did, and it is not inconceivable. In fact, it is completely conceivable that when you hang around in the vortex and you're feeling tuned in, tapped in, turned on, you could be inspired to stop at the 7-Eleven and inspired to the timing of the ticket and inspired to buying the ticket that is the winning of the lottery. But you got to be in the vortex to do that, and you don't do that just all of a sudden. You got to get in the vortex. The vortex has to be familiar to you. And the thing that's so interesting about that is you tune yourself to the frequency of the vortex, and you're not saying, I want to win the jackpot. You're saying, money's flowing to me in abundance. It comes in as fast as it can go out. I have no need for money. Money is flowing in. It's like air. I breathe it in, and I breathe it out, and I breathe it in, and I breathe it out, and I breathe it in, and I breathe it out. In and out, in and out, in and out. It just comes to me naturally, you see. You got to get into the vortex, and then the vortex gives you everything that you need to figure it out as you go. So, do you believe in the validity of this vortex?
Absolutely.
Do you believe that you were and are source energy, even though you are in this physical body?
I do.
Do you believe that as you have been living this life, that you have made a very powerful claim to a veritable fortune?
I do.
And do you believe that it's queued up for you, that it's there with your name on it, that it's already assigned to your bank account, that it's there for you and no one can get it away from you?
I do.
Do you believe that there's no risk at all in this money that has been amassed for you? Do you believe that it is there risk-free?
I do.
And do you understand what the requirement is for you to make claim on your fortune?
No.
Well, you're nearly there, because everything that you said yes to means you're making claim to it. In other words, you know that you put it there, and you know that it's there for you, and you know that the source within you is tending it, and you know that it's a vibrational universe, and you know that you are a vibrational being, and you know that you can find the vibration of it, and you know that law of attraction never gets squirrely. You know that law of attraction will give you exactly what you're asking for, and you know that it's queued up for you, and you know that you've got to be a cooperative component to that. In other words, all you got to do is get in the vortex. That's the requirement. You've got to get in there, know that you're in there, and frequent that place often. You've got to practice the feeling of prosperity, even though the dollars that are in your current bank account may not reflect the 94 million that's on its way to you. You have to take the emotional journey there even before you've taken the financial journey. And that's the thing that most people have a very difficult time doing, because most people let their vibration be completely in response to the life that they are observing. And that's the part that you have to work on.
Exactly.
That's the part that's tricky. So you just begin changing your dialogue. You make friends with where you are. You make friends with the life that you've lived that gave you the wherewithal to want that kind of money. In other words, you've lived a lot of life. You've lived a lot of contrast. You've been asking and asking and asking. And we're not kidding you, and you're not kidding us either, when you say that you are wanting to lay claim to this fortune that you've put there. We're all in complete agreement about that. The only thing that we're not in agreement with yet is that we know that it's yours, and we know you can find access to it, and you don't know that yet because you haven't practiced it enough to know it, because you're still, human being that you are, you're letting the evidence that manifests be the criteria that makes you believe. We're letting what's in your vortex be the criteria that makes us believe, you see.
Oh, I believe it. I know that there's a gap, and somewhere in between that gap is
All right,
precisely
this
is the
good
practice.
This is good dialogue. I believe that it's there. I believe that there's a gap. in my expectation. I believe that there's a gap in my expectation. I believe that I can close the gap in my expectation. I believe that my emotions are my key to closing the gap in my expectation. I believe that hopeful is in the vicinity of the vortex. I believe that believing is inside the vortex. I believe that knowing is in the vortex in a chronic, consistent enough way. I believe that I have access to these dollars. I believe that these dollars are there for me. I believe that there's a path to them that will be an easy path for me. I believe that the path is through the vortex. I believe the path is through my emotions. I believe the path is through the alignment with source energy that is really the larger part of me. I believe that my emotions tell me truly. I believe that when I'm frustrated, I'm not there. I believe that when I'm hopeful, I'm closer. I believe that when I'm happy, I'm there. I believe that when I appreciate, I'm there. I believe that when I make peace with what is, I'm there. I believe that when I appreciate the process of my life that caused me to put this solution there, that I'm there. I love every struggle that I've lived because that's been the fodder that put this there. I believe that the well-being that I've lived and the well-being that hasn't felt so much like well-being has put it there for me. I know that I'm the creator of my own reality. I know that these things are true. I know that I get to live the manifestational version of all of that. I believe that I can live the manifestational version of that. I think there's evidence all over this planet of people who stood right where I'm standing in terms of finances, who had a vortex just like I do that was all queued up for them, and they just found the way in. And I don't have to find the identical way in. I don't have to run around and look for people and say, how'd you get your money? How'd you get your money? How'd you get your money? Because it's different for every one of us. But one thing is a common denominator about anyone who has succeeded in anything that they've been reaching for. They found a way to be a vibrational match to what they were asking for. And that's all I've got to do. That's the piece I'm looking for. When you come back from segment of refreshment, we'll talk further about this because there's an active vibration in the room. Everyone is wanting to figure out how to find a vibration of more abundance. And we want to show you how the abundance that you have put into your vortex, talk about a jackpot. Talk about a jackpot. If you could see the veritable fortune that you have gathered that is vibrationally queued up for you, that you have immediate access to, but it's not through action, it's through the emotional journey. And once you train yourself into vibrational alignment with the energy of your vortex until it feels more normal to expect good things than to expect bad things, until it feels more normal to feel prosperous than to feel shortage, until it feels normal. You've got to practice the feeling of normalcy. And the tricky thing is, how can I feel something that I don't have evidence to support? And that really will be the subject of this afternoon's discussion. How can I train my vibration apart from the reality that I'm observing to comply with the reality that I've created? That is deliberate creating at its best.
If you see the world as very solid and factual and intellectual and logical, then there isn't any logical explanation as to how you may be healed overnight, or any logical explanation as to how you may receive a vast sum of money tomorrow without effort. But when you look at it as energy and you understand the laws of attraction, you're basically pulling to you the results that you need through a dimension that is not solid. If you see your body as solid, and see the circumstances around you as solid, it somewhat limits your ability to believe in it happening. And so I felt it was an important point to begin to establish this idea of you are consciousness. You can create through the power of your thought. If your life force and your strength is strong, you can more or less materialize things instantaneously. If it is not so strong, it'll take time, but you're thinking in terms of something coming towards you in a sea of energy, rather than through the fragmented, a more obscure logical process where often there isn't a logical explanation as to how things actually work. Part, I think, of your energy as you begin to develop into this miracle maker is that you should consider detaching somewhat from the social, ethnic, tribal energy that we all come from. We were all born somewhere. We were all born a part of one tribe or another. The tribe may now have expanded to 50 million people, but it's still a tribe. It's a mindset. It's a socio-economic unit. And as you pull out of that a little bit, it allows you the freedom to oscillate faster, to vibrate faster. If you're very sucked into the old tribal ways, then what happens is you take on the identity of the tribe rather than an identity of yourself. So let's say, for example, you're Irish. You can love Ireland and you can read the Irish poets and you can recall the times that you had in Limerick and Tipperary or wherever it is that you came from. But within your Irishness, you have to bring that back inside of yourself and say, I am an individual. The fact that I was born in Ireland was a factor of my evolution. But first, I'm an individual. Secondly, I'm an Irishman. And as you begin to detach one pace or one step away from the tribal energy, then again you begin to win back your power. You begin to win back that power that will create the miracles for you. Throughout the whole of time and throughout the history of man's struggle within himself, there have been initiates, there have been great beings that have managed to go beyond the limitations of the earth plane. And the way they did it was they won the battle of the mind. There's a part of you that will hold on to the negativity, the fragmented, the ego, the belief in limitation, and there's a part of you that is expansive and loving and joyous and heading out. And those two parts will always be in contention with each other. At the beginning, perhaps, the negative part or the personality part may be much, much stronger than the infinite positive, expansive part of you. And the name of the game is to begin to overwhelm the negativity with positivity. You've heard me talk perhaps in the past about being careful with your vocabulary, being careful with the way that you present yourself. If you're going to come out of positivity, you have to come out of it all of the time. You have to establish that energy inside of you, an energy of hope, one of transcendence, one of serving humanity without infringing upon them. And then as you begin to do that, the inner mind that it retains so much of that negativity, that darkness, it begins to back away. But you have to remember that you've been on the earth plane a certain amount of years, and that inner mind is not going to let go just because you say, oi, get out of here. It has dominated. The inner mind, that negativity of the inner mind, it has control of your life, or it has had control of your life. Often it'll make you sick. It'll make your body sick just to control you. It'll cause difficulty just to be able to feel that it is in control. As you begin to become more infinite, the ego or the dark part of the mind begins to back off, and you may have a feeling that you're dying. And of course, that is a natural feeling on the path, and it isn't your physical death that you're looking at. What you're looking at is that the personality is giving ground to the infinity, and so the personality will have a feeling of it's losing importance or dying. As you push out as a miracle maker, and as you begin to get this action plan going, you have to establish in your feelings the idea that 1, you are worthy, 2, you can receive. So often in our society we put an emphasis on giving, that it is more blessed to give than to receive. But you have to understand, for every giver, there has to be a receiver. When you feel comfortable in receiving, when a person offers you something, take it. It doesn't matter whether they offer you a polyester lame shirt with a nude on the front that sort of moves when you move. You take it. You say thank you, and you take it. And it doesn't matter if you don't want it, because sure enough, if it becomes a part of your possessions in that kind of energy, then somebody will come along to you and they'll say, listen, I'm going to the party, and I need a polyester shirt with a nude on the front that moves when I move. And you'll say, well, I've just got the perfect one. Begin to practice accepting. When you see money in the street, pick it up, even if it's only a penny or a cent or whatever. Pick that thing up. When somebody offers you something, take it. When they offer to help you, accept it. When they offer to heal you, let them heal you. When they offer to give you money, accept their money. And as you begin to open to receiving, then that energy can come to you. Look at nature. It doesn't have a problem receiving. The animals don't sit there and think, gosh, I better give rather than receiving. They're flowing naturally and simply through the forest, and they receive. And they receive nurturement for one kind or another, food and water and whatever they need to survive. And so I want you to center upon that. I want you to center on being a person that is ready to receive. And once you are comfortable with receiving, then the quality of your giving is enhanced because you're bigger. You're a wider, more expansive person. So often you'll get people that center upon giving, and they give little bits, and always with considerations and limitations and conditions. Imagine when you get to the point when you can just give freely. You're radiating this sunshine from your heart, and that can only come if you have trained yourself to receive. And so I want you to watch as you go through next week and the week after. I want you to watch how well you receive. Are you an expert in receiving? Have you graduated from the University of Receiving? Because interestingly enough, that is the key to being able to become expansive. You have to be very clear about what it is you want and what you put into the universal law. As you look at your miracle action plan, you can't be wishy-washy. If you just put in an affirmation that says, I want more money, what does that mean? If you walk over 10 cents in the street, you've got more money. So that's it. That's the energy of that idea gone. So you're looking at being specific and yet leaving it open enough so that it can come from anywhere. So you would say, I would like to increase my abundance tenfold in the next 6 months. You're giving yourself time. It's a specific idea. And what you're saying is, it's not coming from here and from there and from over there. I'm ready to increase my abundance tenfold in the next 6 months, and I will take it from anywhere because I already have inside of me this feeling that I'm honorable and that it's good and it's holy and it's just for me to receive. And so, as you put specific ideas into the universal law, it gives you specific results. Often people will have concepts, goals, and ideas that are so wishy-washy that they can't even explain it to another human individual, let alone explain it to a light, to a God force that reflects exactly back to them where they're at. If you're in confusion, if you have a certain amount of indecision about what your heroic life's goal is or what your mission in life is, then you need to begin to get back inside of yourself and get clear. The key to that miracle-making process is balance. Without balance, you really don't have a chance, because what you're trying to do is this. You're trying to use the infinity or the light in all things to carry to you the result that you want. And because the light comes out of purity and balance, it can only be congruent with you if you are balanced. And balanced means a balanced physical situation. You don't have to heal everything going on in your body, but at least it has to be balanced, and you have to love yourself by caring for your physical body, working on it, being aware when things go wrong, being aware of putting in the correcting action, going off and studying and knowing about your body. And then the second part of balance, of course, is emotional, which we have talked about in the past. And then the mental balance is understanding that for the miracles to happen, you can't engage too much logic. Otherwise, you destroy your belief in the miracle showing up. And between those three items of physical balance, emotional balance, and mental balance, you walk through the physical plane in a measured and powerful way. You don't rush. You don't allow yourself to get out of control. You don't give away your power unless you particularly have to, or unless you make it your decision to do so. And you try to keep as much of your life as immaculate as possible. Then as you begin to create this action plan and you begin to put those miracles up in your mind, you're going to have to remember that there is no time, because we live in a state of eternal now. And in that eternal now, you have to create your affirmation or your visualization or your goal in your feelings. If you can feel it, granted. If you can feel yourself moving through those circumstances that you desire so much, they will be there. If you think that they're outside of you or that they're attainable at a later date, then you'll never pull to you those things that you want. And then as you begin to resonate those feelings and you begin to nurture this little flame of your own intention, then because it is within you and because you believe it, it is granted. But there is a time lag between you conceptualizing the feeling, conceptualizing the goal or the miracle action plan, and when it is delivered. And in that time, you are going to have to be patient. No negative yearning, no frustration, no stomping your foot or whatever. You have to wait. And the more you wait, and you know it will be there, that in itself becomes an affirmation where you pull it to you. But you do have to have time where you begin to look at your feelings, where you begin to process all of the negativity out, where you make the negativity little by making it unimportant, and you make the good things, the glorious things, the loving things important. And that, I think, is one of the main functions of creative visualization. As you develop this technique, the Miracle Maker's technique, one of the things that perhaps you're going to want to work on is your ability to pull prosperity. And of course, the very first thing that you have to do is you have to go beyond the tribal beliefs of scarcity. The world is not scarce. It is superfluous in its abundance. There is more of everything that we'll ever need than we can possibly use. We believe in scarcity because we're taught it. Using the creative visualization technique and using the miracle action plan, you can begin to see yourself more prosperous. And that is going to be vital for you because you're going to need money. And with that money, you're going to buy those experiences and those understandings and that knowledge that you need to acquire. And so as you begin to see yourself more prosperous, you become more prosperous. It's as simple as that. What makes a very wealthy businessman wealthy is the fact that he's comfortable or she is comfortable with money. She's comfortable and he is comfortable with receiving. And he sees himself in the marketplace creating many things. And those many things bring that kind of abundance. What you're doing then with your visualization plan or with your miracle plan is you're writing a film script and you're creating a film where you're living comfortably in luxury with all the things that you need around you, and all of that money energy is there. You're organized. You've got a way of taking the money. You know how to account for it. You can bank it. You can add it up. You have it in balance. You're conscious so that you know how much money you have. You don't find yourself spending 5,000 and earning 4. You find that you are in control. And in the same way as you have to train yourself to know who you are, in the same area in money, you have to train yourself to know about what resources you have, what they bring in, and how much your lifestyle costs. If you've got yourself out of control and your lifestyle costs more than you're actually earning, you have one of two options. One, reduce your lifestyle. Cut out those things that are not necessary, that are not absolutely needed for your life. And the other thing is to go out into the marketplace and create more money. There's a simplicity in that most people miss. But it is simple. And it is simple to be in charge of money and to be powerful and to have the money that you want in your life. But first, it has to be a concept inside of you. A creative visualization and feeling that you will always be looked after, that there will always be enough money.